We're going to talk about recovery during a backcountry hunt on this episode, but I want to start with something that I didn't talk about in the article that happens to be linked in the show notes, and so it's there for you to read it, so you can listen and you can read. Is that recovery, despite all of the rules that I'm going to list out for you during this episode, really starts with you managing your emotions. Because when you don't have your emotional state locked in, you start to make bad decisions. And you start to do things that don't really matter. You start to do things that put you in a bad position. And you don't do the little things to take care of yourself. You might feel rushed. You might let yourself get too worked up, which would lead to making you rush or making poor decisions. So beyond everything that I'm going to talk to you about today, and we'll talk about how your emotional state will play into that, but really recovery on a backcountry hunt starts with you having a good grip on your emotions and maintaining your perspective. Something that helps you do that is having a plan and laying out, having everything dialed in, based on the things we've talked about in the past few weeks, knowing that everything that can be accounted for is accounted for. And then that way you have the ability to adapt and be flexible and not let things get to you. Because in my experience, when I see people, when I've seen things get to people on these kind of trips, or if you're just, not necessarily on a trip, but you're going to the backcountry to hunt, that's when they start to do the things that put them in a worse psychological and eventually physiological place. And then they can't recover and they can't go the distance in the way that they want to. So just to lay that foundation out there before we get talking about what we're going to talk about during this podcast, I have 5 rules for you on backcountry recovery, and I have the article here up on my iPad, so I'm going to use that as my notes. And we'll start with why does it matter? Because you can't just rely on your fitness. I think that's the first thing is, well, if a lot of people get to the point where they think, if I've trained hard enough and I've done enough, or I can just be tough, all of that kind of stuff. And then they don't do the little things to take care of themselves, and it chips away at them and it chips away at them. And then all of a sudden they're just in a really bad place mentally and physically. They're dehydrated, they're depleted, they feel like shit, their mind won't work. So it matters because not only does it keep you in the game and help give you the best chance to be successful, but it also just makes the experience way better. You do a few little things to take care of yourself and be smart about it, and you have more fun and you have a better chance of accomplishing what you're out there to accomplish. And you can't just rely on your fitness, because will being fitter set you up for more success and give you a better buffer for what you can manage and recover from? Can you make more mistakes? Can you, to a degree, yes, you can. But the fittest person in the world can't out-hunt their recovery. And if they try to, and they don't do the little things that they need to do to take care of themselves, the fatigue will mount too much and they won't even have access to their fitness. So recovery matters physiologically and psychologically. But anything that creates a psychological or physiological stressor is going to weigh on your ability to recover from whatever you're doing. And recovery means, regeneration. Can you go hunt all day, then the next day be able to have the same or similar level of output? That's what recovery is. Now there's a handful of things, more than a handful of things that play into that, but that's what it is. So that's why the emotional state matters, because anything that weighs on you psychologically, it's going to affect your ability to recover. And as we'll talk about, it could be something as simple as your pack's not sitting right and you won't take the time to stop and adjust it. So it keeps digging into you and wearing on your mind and just slowly wears you down. And it doesn't make you a sissy if you need to do that. I mean, The toughest guys in the world are not tough just because of their mental state. It's because they know that they need to stop and make their situation better so that they maintain the reserve. You want to keep as much as your reserve as possible, and that's what recovery is about, both from a physiological standpoint and a psychological standpoint. So that's why it's so important. One of the first things is, rule number one is, don't create unnecessary fatigue. Don't do stupid shit to wear yourself down. That's really it. I think this comes back to the emotional state thing. We get caught up in wanting to be the toughest guy out there, or really demonstrating what we're capable of, and then we burn ourselves up here on the hill and waste a bunch of energy. We ignore little things like taking care of ourselves. We try to take the hardest route or something like that just to show everybody what we're capable of. We race people uphill. We just push ourselves to the point in an unnecessary way, right? Because there's no crowd waiting for you. There's nobody to cheer. You don't get a trophy for unnecessary suffering. So why burn through your reserves when it's not going to set you up for success, and really just probably put you in a worse position and diminish your chances of success? So don't create unnecessary fatigue. Don't do shit that wears you down for no reason. Sometimes you might have to burn uphill to get in position to take a shot. That's necessary. That's different than going and doing silly things because you're caught up in the moment, or because you have something to prove to yourself or somebody else. Like, there's nothing to prove. You just got to go do it within your capabilities, and understand that if you accrue that fatigue, you're going to dig yourself a deep hole, deplete yourself, and not come back for it. I mean, keep in mind, at a backcountry hunt, let's say at a regular elevation, somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 feet, you might be burning 6,000 calories a day, maybe 7 sometimes. You go to elevation, it's going to be higher. You're not going to be able to eat that many calories. You might get 3,000 or 3,500 in. You might have a hard time eating one day and only get 1,500 or 2,000 in. And so then if you go and do unnecessary shit and deplete yourself, you're even farther behind the game, and you're not going to be able to get yourself back into it. So understand that you're already at a physiological disadvantage based on you're going to be underfed. So if you're underfed, then you do more to dig yourself a hole. All you're going to do is make things worse and make it difficult for you to go day after day after day, which is the point. We recover so we can go day after day after day, recover from that, come back, and then if we have more to the season, we have the ability to get to it, and we're not left recovering from a hunt for 2-3 weeks, a month, something like that. It's a silly thing to do. So I have a little thing that I want you to remember, a little mantra, and that is, recovery starts during the hunt. And what I mean by that is, don't do unnecessary things to wear yourself out. Don't be a hero. Just go hunt. If something has to happen and you have no choice, fucking go do it. But don't put yourself in a position because you're making stupid choices. That's really all it. Now, what are some of the things that you can do to help you avoid unnecessary fatigue? The first thing is, take the most efficient route whenever possible. If there's an easier way to go that's going to cost less energy, do that. Every critter that you're out there hunting does that for themselves. Deer, elk, people, listen to me. Critters take the most efficient thing. They know that they have to manage their energy balance. They know this instinctively. Now, if you spook an elk and he goes straight up over the goddamn mountain, of course he's not doing it the most efficient way. He's scared of getting shot. He doesn't want to get shot, so he's getting out of there. But in most situations, animals take the most efficient route to save energy. That's what you should do as well. Don't burn uphill. This is a very salient one that a lot of people do. Don't wear yourself out on your uphill climbs. Move at a sustainable pace. Move at a pace that allows you to manage your heart rate, and don't build a ton of fatigue in your legs. So like, if you feel like a dead or a tired feeling in your legs, that's fine. Maybe even a light burn. But if you're pushing so hard that you're getting into a deep burn, you're wasting resources that you don't need to waste. You're sucking up fuel, and you're limiting your ability to bounce back from that. Now, it's not a big deal if like you're going home, sleeping in your own bed, and you can eat however much you want. Not so much of a big deal. You can't do that if you're going into hunt for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks at a time. You got to be smart, and you got to manage yourself. So don't burn yourself out on your climbs. move at a sustainable pace. And if you need to rest, rest. If you're on a really hard one, every 20 minutes or so, pause, take a drink, have a little bit of a snack, then keep going. You keep yourself fueled, you manage your energy expenditure, and you do the little things to take care of yourself. So don't burn your uphills. And like I mentioned earlier, adjust things, adjust your pack, make sure it's sitting right. If it feels wonky, if the weight's distributed wrong, if it's got your shirt bunched up and that's wearing on your brain and it's rubbing on your skin, all these little things that could take away from you. You got a rock in your boot, something doesn't feel tied right, stop and fix it. Make your situation better. Don't just try to tough it out and tell yourself that you're tough and you're just going to deal with it. That's fine, you can do that. And in some instances, we have no choice because we got to go, right? But in most instances, that's not it. Stop and make your situation better, because anything that chips away at your capacity limits your ability to recover, because it just takes more resources. At this point, it's just an economic decision, an energy economy decision, to make sure that you don't spend energy that you don't need to spend, okay? Another thing, and this comes back to managing your emotions, is just focus on the moment. Don't think about whether or not you're going to be successful. Don't look at the top of the goddamn hill and be like, my God, that's going to suck. Keep your mind where your boots are. One step at a time, take it in, enjoy it for what it is, and just take a step and let everything else go. If you're looking into the future, you're doing all these different things, you're literally wasting energy in your brain, because you have to use energy to be able to create those thoughts. So you're wasting resources and you're diminishing your experience. So keep your mind where your boots are, focus on the moment, focus on each step at a time, and keep yourself present, and that will help you from creating unnecessary fatigue. Another thing is make your camp as comfortable as possible without, adding a shit ton of weight to your pack. If you're comfortable in camp, you waste less energy. You don't have to support yourself as much. You're warmer, you're drier. One of the things that I take along is that Helinox chair that I just got. I'm taking that on every goddamn trip. It's not that heavy, but it gives me a comfortable place to sit, regardless of where I am. Now, you can call me big sis. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to waste energy trying to hold my body up or sit in an awkward position or have to shift all the time. I got a nice chair, and I'm going to sit in it, and that's going to make camp a whole lot better. So making yourself as comfortable as possible is intelligent. It doesn't make you weak. It's smart. It saves you reserve for when you really need to go be a hard ass if the situation comes, right? So save your reserve as much as possible. And then manage your temperature. Use your layers. Don't get too hot. Don't get too cold. Use your layers effectively to manage your temperature so you don't waste a bunch of energy trying to regulate your heat all the time. It costs a lot, okay? Now, 2, we're going to eat to fuel, repair, and keep your head on straight. Now, the 2 most important nutrients in the backcountry, I don't care what any of these people that are like keto or super fat supporters say. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to make a bold fucking statement. They're wrong. They're wrong. The most important nutrients in the backcountry are carbs and protein. Carbs being the most important one. Eat your carbs. They are your fuel. They keep you from depleting the resources in your body. They help you recover. They'll even help you sleep, because of hormonal and neurotransmitter cascades that carbohydrates play a role in, like tryptophan, which is a precursor to melatonin, which allows you to sleep. So having carbs at night before in your evening meal is going to help you sleep. It's going to keep you from being depleted. As you get going, you are going to burn glycogen. You have glycogen stored in your muscles, you have it stored in your liver, and you only have about 100 grams in your body. You burn through that. Think about this. You burn through that. You're in a calorie deficit. It's tough to get enough back in. You're not going to replenish it. You're not going to have the resources to recover. So eating enough carbohydrates is huge, especially when you're not going to be able to eat enough calories to support the activity that you're doing. Smart. This is how human physiology works. Now, I've seen these studies where like these ultra endurance athletes ate keto and then spared their glycogen and didn't have these problems, but you're missing the point if those are the kind of things that you're citing, because first of all, they're professional athletes. They have some gifts that a lot of us don't have. Second, they had to do something very strict to make that happen. You're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. It's going to be fucking miserable, and it's really, really difficult to do. Second, you don't have the training volume that they do. None of us do. I don't even have that fucking training volume, and I train all the time. So it's a really stupid thing to try to set yourself up to rely on fat in the backcountry. You won't be able to perform as well, you won't recover as well, and you're going to have a bad time. Okay, so we're going to cut back the fat, we're going to carry way more carbs, and we're going to eat the shit out of them. Having some, like, at least like 40 grams every hour while you're moving, really good idea. Keeps you in a good place. If you're on a backpack hunt, like 500 grams a day, somewhere between 400 and 500 grams a day, good portion in the morning, good portion of the night, and then most of your food throughout the day should be, fast digesting carbs to keep yourself fueled and to keep yourself from burning through your glycogen. Second is protein. You need it for more than repairing muscles. It is, amino acids are the precursors to some of our most important neurotransmitters, like dopamine. You burn through protein, you don't have enough to restore. Not only will your muscles not recover, but also you're looking at mental fatigue, inability to focus, poor attention, poor emotional regulation, poor motor control, poor decision making, because your neurotransmitters aren't getting the support that they need. You can say, well, this is all sciencey stuff, I can just go. No, I'm telling you, man. Even the smartest, toughest guys in the world, they take care of themselves like this because it's intelligent. So you're going to want about 100 grams of protein. So you're looking at 400 and 500 grams of carbs, about 100 grams of protein, and then you can fill in the rest of the balance with fat, maybe like 60 grams a day or something like that. That is the plan that I put together for my Pack Mule Apex client Trent on his backpack sheep hunt that he just did. He covered over 100 miles in 10 days in the Mackenzie Mountains in the Northwest Territories, which are no joke. 100 miles. There's no flat ground. It's up, down, side hilling the whole time. He had his legs the whole time. He never felt like he couldn't keep going. Obviously, he trained, but the nutrition kept him supported. And then when he got home, he was fine. He started working out again. We have to eat to support the things that we need. And then it kept his head clear. It kept him in the game. It kept the decision making there, so he could go out and kill on evening 10 of his hunt. If he had not supported himself nutritionally the way that he needed to, he wouldn't have been there. So eat your carbs, eat a lot of them, eat your protein. And another point on eating enough carbs is, if you don't eat enough carbs, your body will redirect that protein for energy use. And so then you get less of it for muscular repair and things like supporting neurotransmitters and hormones. Okay, so we need to make sure we have enough carbs, and we need to make sure we have enough protein, a little bit of fat. If you're going to eat your fat, eat it when you're sitting still, like at lunch or at dinner, and you're going to be sitting a long time, because it takes a while to digest, and you don't use it as quickly as fat, and it's going to suck a bunch of blood to your stomach, and you're not going to move as well with it. So carbs and protein, eat a lot of them. And you can do all of this, like you can get to 3,500 calories a day eating this way with only somewhere between, like, I think Trent's food loadout was like 18 pounds, which on a 10-day hunt is not bad. And his total pack weight was 60 pounds for that hunt. So you can do this without carrying a shit ton of weight. Okay, so it's important that you eat to support yourself. Eat enough, eat some carbs every hour, have your protein when you're sitting still, have your protein portion in the morning, have something at lunch if you're going to be sitting for a while, and then finish it off at dinner. And that's a really good way to do that. And then carbs while you're moving all the time. Next, rule number 3, hydrate wisely. This ain't rocket surgery. This is something that you know. But people avoid it, and then they think they can make up. Like, they don't drink steadily throughout the day, and then they try to drink a bunch of water at night. Once you get dehydrated, everything starts going downhill. Every process in your body is dependent on water. A part of that is managing your blood volume, which manages your heart rate. You get dehydrated, your heart has to work harder to pump out blood because there's not as much of it. So it's harder to regulate your heart rate. It's harder to regulate your temperature, your body temperature. All these things are going to start a cascade that wears you down. You're not going to recover as well, and it's going to be very difficult to go from day to day. So sip, don't gulp. You should be drinking throughout the day. And if you try to make it up at night, one of the things you're going to do is you're going to be running piss relays all night. You're going to be getting up to go piss. You're going to dump that water, and you're going to stay dehydrated. So you need to drink steadily throughout the day. The rule of drinking before you're thirsty is a good idea. So having a handful of ounces at a time, like I said, you're on a uphill climb, you stop every 20 minutes, you have some. Dr. Andy Galpin has a really good hydration equation that works really well. So if you're doing something difficult, every 15 to 20 minutes, divide your body weight by 30. That's the amount of ounces you should be drinking every 15 to 20 minutes during heavy exertion, and then keep going throughout the day. If you want to monitor it, the easiest thing to do is check your urine color. You should be straw yellow, which is like very light yellow. If you're clear, you're likely over drinking and you're dumping water. So what you want to do is slow down and add in some electrolytes, because you don't want to become hyponatremic either, right? Which can happen if you're over drinking, you're pissing a lot and you're exerting yourself. So slow down and add in some electrolytes. If it's darker than that, you need to increase how often you're drinking, okay, to get yourself caught back up. We start to see deleterious issues with cognitive ability and with performance at as little as 2% dehydration. So you have to take care of yourself and make sure that you're drinking your water, okay? Now, protect your sleep. It's your best recovery tool. You're good, just like being underfed out there, you're going to be underslept. There's going to be early mornings, there's going to be late nights. You're in a weird environment. You're not going to be able to get as comfortable as you do at your home in your bed. There's all these different things. Protect your sleep. One of the simplest ways to do that is don't, and I know it's fun. I'm not trying to be a teetotal asshole here, but don't carry a little thing of booze every night and have a sip before you don't fuck with your sleep. If you want to save it for a celebration, absolutely. I think that's great, but don't be sitting there drinking every night. That's going to take it away. And then you want to set up your sleep system so it's as comfortable as possible. I think one of the best investments that you can make, just like with the mattress at home, spend the money on a good sleeping pad. I had a handful of years back, I got the Thermarest Neo Air X-Therm. That sumbitch is long and it is wide and it has an R value of 7. So I stay warm, I stay comfortable, I can move in my sleep and don't have the same issues that you would on a smaller pad. It's really comfortable, and it's been maybe the best investment I've ever made in gear, because I can sleep when I'm out there. So get the nicest sleeping pad that you can afford. And then when it comes to the rest of your sleep system, make sure you're not severely overgunning or undergunning your whatever you're using to cover yourself, whether it's a sleeping bag, a quilt, whatever it might be. If you're way overgunning it, you're going to get hot. You're not going to be able to rest. If you're undergunning it, you're going to get cold. You're not going to be able to rest because you're going to keep waking up. But what I tend to do is I keep a 15-degree Mountain Hardwear bag. And if it's too warm for that, I have a quilt. I use a quilt, so that way it's easy to shift how much airflow, what the temperature is going to be while I'm sleeping. Now, if it's way cold for my 15-degree bag, there's a simple fix. I either put on my puffy pants or I put on layers and I get my sleeping bag. A couple of reasons. It's first, your sleeping bag has one use. So carrying insulation that only has one use and carrying more of that weight doesn't make any sense. Whereas if you have your puffy pants or maybe even your puffy coat, if it's cold enough, that insulation has more than one use. So you can carry that weight and it makes more sense because you can apply it in more situations. So just put that shit on and get in your bag. If it's 0 degrees outside, then you have your 15-degree bag. You put, whatever layers you need on, you put your puffy stuff on, you get in your bag and you can sleep. You'll be warm enough. That way it's easier to regulate your temperature and use insulation across different scenarios rather than just carrying a heavier bag. So I like a 15 to 20 degree bag somewhere in there, and then use other layers on top of that to regulate your temperature. Another thing you're going to want to do is have something to eat, in the evening. Have a decent meal. It's going to help you sleep. Like I said, from the carbohydrate standpoint, and plus if you're hungry, it's really difficult to sleep when you're hungry. So, when you're out there, you're tired, you might have that meal and crawl right in your sack and try to go to bed. A couple hours before you lay down to go to sleep, whatever it is, have a meal in there so you have food in your belly. It's going to help keep you warmer if it's cold outside, and it's also going to allow you to rest. It's going to allow you to relax. And then if you're dehydrated, it's going to be tough to sleep too. So one, It makes it difficult to regulate your body temperature. But then if you try to play catch up in the evening and drink all that water, like I said, you're going to be running piss relays. You're going to be getting up or at least laying in your bag feeling like, fuck, I don't want to go outside and take a piss, but I really need to. So hydrate throughout the day. It's going to be easier for you to rest and actually sleep for a lot of different reasons. Another thing to consider is making sure that you have your camp set up and system routinized. That way you're not figuring that out on the fly all the time, wasting time doing all that kind of stuff, and stretching that longer into the evening than you need to, so you have more time to get down and rest. So make it as simple as possible. Know what you do, have your steps together, save energy in your brain, and save time so you have more time to rest. It's a really good idea. Now, number 5, few key supplements. You could maybe call this optional. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think you should have an electrolyte replacement on you. They don't serve that great of a purpose in everyday life unless you're an endurance athlete and you do really long workouts, especially if you do them in the heat. You might need some replacement, but like all this bullshit about you should drink sodium every day. There's zero research that says it's beneficial to you. It's just it's nonsense. But they are important for the backcountry because we can walk ourselves into bad situations with dehydration and everything if we do that. So having electrolyte supplements, I like LMNT and Liquid IV. LMNT has about twice the sodium. You get about 1,000 milligrams from a stick. Liquid IV, you get 500 milligrams. But they're the two that I like because they have a good sodium load. So either one of those, and having one per day, maybe 2 per day if you're using the Liquid IV, will help kind of balance you out. And then if you're eating freeze dried at night, there's a shit ton of sodium in that, so that'll help maintain that balance as well. So having the extra sodium from that is helpful. Another thing, supplemental carbs. One of the things that I tell my pack mule members, especially if they're going on mountain hunts, is to take some kind of carb drink with them, that like a stick, like you would the electrolyte replacement. Scratch Labs makes this one called Super High Carb. I'm not getting paid for this. I've never even talked to anybody there, but I know that it works. You get like 200 grams of carbs from one stick. Now, if you're having a hard time eating, you're doing some really hard shit, it's not very much weight, and you get a lot of carbohydrates from it. So having a carb replacement with you is a really good idea. You got a big climb, like I said, you're having a hard time to eat. And another thing it's useful for is on your walk in. So that way you don't get behind the curve. You're ahead of the curve already. So if you're drinking it on the way in, even if it's not a super hard hike, you're not going to deplete anything because you have carbs on hand to take with you. And then if you have a hard hike, you're really giving yourself some insurance against that. So it's a great insurance policy to have. You can order them from Scratch Labs and get a box of like 8 sticks. And if you have 8 with you over the course of a week to 10-day hunt, you have a good insurance policy for yourself from a carbohydrate and calorie standpoint. Then the third is some protein powder. Like I said, protein's important. Protein powder doesn't weigh that much. You can use it as part of your breakfast. Take some protein powder, drop it in a pouch of oatmeal or 2, or however you're mixing up your oatmeal, and you have yourself a good load of carbs. I mean, you have 2 packets of oatmeal, you're looking at like 70 grams of carbs right there. A scoop of protein, you got 25 grams of protein right there, and 25 to 30 somewhere in there. You can, whichever supplement that you use for it, and then you're in a good place. And then if you need extra throughout the day, you have a little bit of extra protein with you. So I think a protein powder is a really good idea because it's light and you can get a good protein load from it. And then I have some honorable mentions when it comes to supplements, and these are adaptogens. So adaptogens help to regulate your hormonal balance in your body. Ashwagandha is the one that I like the most because this is anecdotal, but it's the one that I've felt the most benefit from. But ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, tongkat ali, they're all adaptogens. Rhodiola rosea is a really good one. I've had good effects from that, but I seem to respond to ashwagandha the best. Now, these can help you adapt to the stress of the hunt. It's important though to know that you need to start taking these at least a few weeks before, because it takes a while for them to really start kicking in and working. So if you start them a couple weeks before and then take them throughout your hunt, it can help you manage the stress of your hunt. Most important thing to do is make sure that if you're going to use them, that you understand what the critical dose of the supplement is. Because I've seen a lot of supplements, especially from supplements in the hunting industry, that throw these names in there, and it's not even near enough to make a difference. They're just putting it on there for marketing purposes, and it's ridiculous. But so, for example, ashwagandha, you need about 600 milligrams of ashwagandha split into 2 doses throughout the day. So one in the morning, maybe one at night. So 300 milligrams in the morning, 300 milligrams at night, to make sure that you get enough to make it worthwhile. Rhodiola rosea, you need about 400. So 200 in the morning, 200 at night to make it worthwhile. So make sure that no matter what the label says, that's about the dosage that you need to make sure that you're getting enough to make it worthwhile. But they can be helpful. They're not totally, I don't know that they're as important as the other supplements, but they can be useful in that scenario. So that'd be something to consider. So those are the 5 simplest rules that I have for you to manage your recovery in the backcountry. And the thing is, just do the little things, take care of yourself. Don't burn yourself out. Make sure you're eating and drinking, eating enough carbs, eating enough protein, and managing your stress and emotional state so that you can stay clear and make the decisions that you need to make. Like I said, the article version of this podcast is in the show notes, so you can go and click that if you want to go read it and then digest the information a different way. I also have links for all of our free resources in the show notes, from our the hunters field test, which is a base fitness assessment, the pack capacity calculator, which is based on our 10-minute step-up test, which tells you about how much weight you're safe to carry for a long duration uphill without beating the piss out of yourself, where you at fitness-wise when it comes to that. And then how to keep hunting hard after 50, which is a training guide for guys that are 50, getting close to it on the north side of it. Gives you some good advice on how to manage your training. As always, thanks for watching and listening. Talk to you next week.